The other thing that I do enjoy when I'm running is the music. Always have loved some music so much, and to have a playlist that gives you energy, it's another good example of an external source of power, and it's a very enjoyable one. So music and running together are good practices for me. At the moment I'm trying to learn an instrument well enough that I can play it for my own enjoyment primarily, but I'd love to be able to listen to music and then work out the structure and the chords, be able to play along with it, and I guess play along with other people in a similar way. And I do really enjoy playing with other people when there's enough of them and I can be anonymous within it, but I have anxiety about performing music as opposed to a sense of I'm just sharing it, and that anxiety feels very closely aligned to how I feel about teaching yoga and whether or not I could authentically make it up as I went along based on my own practice. And okay, prepare if I want to think through what are the steps I want to carry through today, why not? And to build in structure is great, but to feel that it was originating in the moment is very much how I want to do it. And I want to do it so that I don't feel I'm actually performing or faking it or leaning on my past presentation skills. I want to feel it's coming from me in the moment, which is how I perceive that people who teach really well are able to do it. And I don't know if that's specific to yoga, where it's actually the person giving themselves, or is that what happens in teaching generally? Or people who they're teaching, do they just do it playing a role of a teacher, covering the syllabus, trying to get the right information out there, which is more like how I would do a presentation. I think these are the musings that maybe will unravel a little and become looser and maybe not matter, or maybe I will work through how to let them sit lightly and possibly get out of my way so that I could just get on with things. I don't know. As I run along, I'm reminded of past limitations and coping with a skill set that didn't really include access to maybe my core power. Maybe I didn't understand my emotions. Maybe I was pretty much in my thinking, addictive head, ruminating, worrying. I certainly didn't spend much time in my body, and therefore the discovery of yoga as a moving practice, and running and sports and breathing techniques were a way of taking myself out of my head and feeling what was going on in my body. And so body scans and mindfulness have been a really important part of my journey in the past years, and they have helped me a lot. It was when I was looking at this before that I realised that I had been suffering with body dysmorphic disorder for at least 20 years, and I had no idea that I had, which is kind of bonkers when you say it out loud. How can you not know? I didn't know such a thing existed. I remember discovering it because of watching a television programme where some people were talking about their experience with anorexia, and when they described what was going on for them, I remember watching and listening and thinking, that's so bizarre, it sounds like me. And yet I don't have anorexia and I don't have an eating disorder. I like food. So how come what they're describing matches so closely to something I'm extremely familiar with? And it was through some more research and help from others that I discovered there was such a thing as BDD, and that I had been suffering with it secretly for about 20 years, practicing the things that are very self-destructive. It is a kind of hatred of yourself and the way you look, and it's not logical, but it is the most brutal of conditions, because you look at yourself with total and utter disgust. Not so much necessarily who you are, but how you perceive the way you look, and it's just miserable. But identifying it, of course, was an important step to finding a way of finding improvement. And I'm not certain that anyone ever necessarily gets completely past it. I don't think I have completely. I know that I have not the practicing tendencies that I used to of the self-destructive stuff that goes on in my head, and I don't have the time-consuming activities that took part, and I therefore am significantly better. But there are some elements that still occur, and they take shape in not wanting to be seen and feeling ashamed.
1 kilometer auto lap, 10:55. Average pace, 7:09. Average power, 276.
And I think parts of that are still invisible from me, but they echo. There are moments where I suddenly feel very self-conscious. And of course, this self-conscious thing is probably at the root of feeling uncomfortable about doing yoga in the open air, where somebody could see me doing it. And that's what's going on right now, where I try to find a space to do yoga, and there is nobody around. And there is no reason why I shouldn't do yoga in public. And yet I find I'm embarrassed, it's not quite the right word. I'm resistant to being... I feel vulnerable doing it. I feel very, very uncomfortable, unable to breathe, unable to relax into it. And of course then I feel a bit like it's ridiculous and a bit attacking of myself for feeling like that, and I beat myself up a bit, which doesn't help. And yet I then go, okay, well, I can see you're doing that, don't do it. Be gentle, and let's see what happens another day. And maybe it'll become clearer, and maybe I'll work out how to work through it. And musings like this are part of bringing it back into my vocabulary, and accepting that it still happens, and that there is something there. And I may be out of practice with some of this. Maybe it's been invisible, or more invisible, out of view for a while. And maybe it will become more apparent now that I'm looking at things afresh. And that's a good thing. As is this. Look at that. That's what comes along when you decide to go out for a run. Captivating. Beautiful water, shiny, moving, flowing, changing. It's fascinating. Moving and flowing. That's what I need to do to finish up this run.